Hello everyone, welcome back to another week of rental rights for Lifeskills. If you haven't seen any of our previous videos, we've covered everything from your legal rights as a renter through to how to prepare for moving, how to research properties, how to do inspections, how to do applications, and pretty much anything else you can think of, how to prepare for moving day. There's so many videos we've done. Make sure that you head to our playlist and check it out on our YouTube channel, Latrobe Youth Space. This week, we're covering rental obligations. These are those things that, although they can be annoying, legally you need to be aware of in order to avoid having to lose your bond, having to potentially be put on a blacklist, and all of that jazz. Other than the obvious, paying for your bonds, making sure you've got that 4 weeks rent in advance if that's in your contract, and ensuring that you pay rent on time. There's a number of other things that you need to be aware of. So firstly, you need to check the smoke alarms regularly. The real estate agent should do it prior to you moving in. However, just for your own safety and peace of mind, it's recommended that you check your smoke alarm every month to ensure that it is still working correctly. It's not often that faults will occur with smoke alarms. Usually they'll beep really loudly and tell you if they're losing their battery. But sometimes they will have other faults. So it's important to press that test button and make sure that they're working once a month if possible. So we've got a whole video on how to do this and how to check this out. So make sure you head to our YouTube channel and watch that if you need pointers or tips on doing that. Another obligation while renting is making sure that if you're going to do any major modifications or anything that isn't considered a necessary minor modification, so if you're going to hang a picture on the wall, that's fine. If you're going to put up curtain rails, that's very fine. If you're going to put in child safety features or pet safety features, that's really okay. But if you're going to do something a little more major, you want to repaint a wall, or you want to change the carpet, or, even something a little bit less major than that, make sure if you're going to do anything more major that you get permission beforehand from your real estate and your landlord to be able to make those changes. Really important that you do this, otherwise you could end up footing quite a bill for it to be put back the way it was. Even if they're not going to put it back, they can still foot you the bill because you've changed the property without permission, which could be extremely frustrating for you. So make sure you get permission for that. And obviously if you have pets or anything like that, you need to make sure you get permissions for those as well. For example, if you're putting in a cat flap or something like that, you need to make sure, unless it's one that is very necessary and that you've already arranged, you need to make sure that you get permissions for those sorts of things. Another thing you're responsible for as a renter is changing your light bulbs. So if your light bulbs go, you'll need to purchase and replace them. If you are worried about the electrics, you're worried about the safety of it, you can always make sure that you just turn your main switch off. However, if you can't get up there and physically do it, you may have to unfortunately pay for somebody like an electrician or a maintenance person to come in and change those. Chat to your real estate first, particularly if you do have mobility, accessibility issues. There might be something that they can do to help out. Otherwise, you might have to hire someone to come in or get a friend or family member to help you out. If you notice if there's any sort of danger in changing the light bulb beyond just getting on the step ladder and removing the fixture, if for example that you're worried about live wires, you're worried about sharp objects or sharp edges, or anything else that might be hazardous, make sure that you put a maintenance request into your real estate. The maintenance request will usually have been, a copy of the form will usually have been given to you either electronically or physically when you have first gotten in the place. But if you don't have it, just call or email or message your real estate agent, and they should be able to send you another copy to fill out, or send you the electronic location so you can fill one out online as well. Make sure you take photos and report it, because your safety is paramount. If you are having issues with either the appliances that came with the property, if it was furnished, or just any appliances that came with the property, for example, the oven, the dishwasher, the gas water heater, the electric water heater, whatever it is, you will need to do some basic troubleshooting before you call in. So check the manual's instructions and see if there are any easy and safe fixes that you can do yourself. This will just save you a bit of money because unless it's due to regular wear and tear, like normal progression of wear and tear over time, if, for example, it's just like the pilot's gone out on the gas water heater, or, the ovens, the oven settings, you just weren't sure about an oven setting that you needed to do, or your washing machine just needed the sump filter emptied, which is a very easy process. You just take out the little plug and drain it into a container. If it's those sorts of really easy fixes and you report it as a maintenance request and they send a maintenance person out there and it turns out to be something that you very easily could have done that was in the manual, then you will generally have to cover that cost. So to save yourself that money, make sure that you just check the manuals first. If you weren't given manuals with a property, get in contact with your real estate agent, as they legally need to do this before charging you for those things. Make sure that you do that. Otherwise, you might be footing a bill for something that is quite an easy fix. If you're uncertain of these things, maybe chat to a family member or a friend who can help you out. They might be able to read through the manual with you, or they might know some easy fixes for these things as well. And also check out our Lifeskills playlist we have, and DIY playlist. We've got a lot of fix-it videos for like everyday things, from like, cleaning out your washing machine, your toaster, and all of that jazz. So that can help out as well. Make sure that you do that. Another obligation that you have as a renter is to keep the place clean and tidy. Make sure there's no rubbish piling up inside, outside, or around the property, particularly like food scraps and things like that. I had a friend who, when she moved in, there was a big rodent problem at the place that she was at. She didn't realize this until a few weeks in. She'd been keeping a compost, pile outside, but it wasn't enclosed. As a result, when she did report it, and even though it was a bit dodgy, but when she did report it, they footed her. They were going to foot her. They basically put it on her that she had a rodent problem because she had those food scraps piling up outside. And while this might have contributed to the rodent problem, it was very much there prior. However, sometimes, if these sorts of things are a contributing factor, if they're around the house, they might just not listen to you, or not, I suppose they might not know if it was you or not. So they might sort of use that as a reasonable evidence that you were responsible or indirectly responsible for issues. So keeping rubbish from piling up inside and outside is really important and can save you money in the long run, save you stress as well. So the next one is related to that, sort of the incidental and accidental damage. So try to do what you can to avoid accidental or incidental damage, because even though it's accidental, you will likely still be charged for it out of your bond. For example, like you might want to smoke inside, but if that which can cause permanent like odor stains in like upholstery, carpets, and even in paint and walls and things like that, you could end up footing a much larger bill later on. Like things that you might not even think of, like you keep your metal clothes horse, on the wall, like against a wall, and it might, over time, it might rub up against the paint and chip or scratch the paint as well. Even if you keep a potted plant, but you don't have a big enough drip tray and it overflows on the floor, it can cause some stains on the wooden floors, or it might cause some damage over time, that sort of thing. That will be considered accidental or incidental damage. If you have pets and they are sort of, you might not mean it, and sometimes it's unavoidable, but they might scratch up a door, or they might chew on a corner of something, or rip up some carpet or something like that. So just wherever possible, try to be as careful as possible. Even accidentally breaking a window, which from time to time it happens, particularly if you're playing cricket or footy or something outside of the family, but those sorts of things can also end up coming back in your pocket. If you have done accidental damage, try to fix it yourself where you know what you're doing and you're not going to make it worse. I've done that before and that is not fun. Made it worse, that is. So yeah, check out our DIY playlists and life skills playlists. We've got a bunch of information about sort of like DIY fixes and easy fixes on there that could save you a lot of money. But if you can't fix it yourself, if you're worried about fixing it yourself or it's beyond your expertise, you can, or you don't want to do it because like if it's done wrong and not by a professional, like for example, things like plumbing, electricity, you know, proper like construction stuff, like don't risk that if you are not a licensed professional. But if you wanted to have somebody come and fix that, you can make sure like your real estate is entitled to get quotes, but so are you. So make sure you can actually go and get a few different quotes by licensed professionals. And if they, so maybe do that separate. And then if your real estate comes back to you saying, you know, it's going to cost this much money, and you're like, the quotes I got were very different to that, you can actually refute that and say, well, look, I've gone around, I've gotten a few quotes and that's a lot more expensive than I thought, than what I've gotten. And you can refute that and hopefully get a bit of a cheaper deal on any maintenance that needs to be done. Another obligation is that you need to clean your place thoroughly before inspections. The real estate, it's a pain, I know, but the real estate should send you a checklist a couple of weeks before an inspection. If not, you can request one. I found that so long as like pretty much most of the things are done, they're usually pretty okay, but they're still going to make notes about these things, and over time that could look poorly on your rental history. So important, particularly for the next place that you want to come into. If you want a rental reference, then it's really important that you try your best to keep on top of this stuff. It can be hard, you know, sometimes it might be worth rallying your friends, and particularly if you don't have a lot of time when your inspection's coming up, rally your friends, rally your family, and return the favor as well. Really important to return the favor in some way, whether it's, you know, shouting them some food or helping them out the next time they need a bit of preparation or a bit of cleaning help. But yeah, try to make sure that this is all spick and span before your inspection. Another big obligation is maintenance requests. So you need to do maintenance requests and report any damage or issues that arise with the property, irrespective of whether you caused it or not. Always do these things, even if you think the issue is really small or you feel like, oh, it's not a biggie, that's just like, oh, it's a little chip, it's a little scratch. Because if it is something that is like an actual bigger problem that starts to get worse and worse over time. Like, for example, you might notice there's like a little bit of lifting coming up underneath the plasterboard. My friend had this. She noticed that there was the lifting up happening under the plasterboard, and she noticed a bit of water coming out, and she's like, okay, that's a bit weird. She reported it straight away. As it turned out, her plumbing wasn't complete and there was a bunch of water that was leaking out into the wall space and the floor space. And if she had have just like let that go without reporting the damage that she did visibly notice, then that could have gotten worse and caused, you know, rot, and might have even had to cause like full renovations, removals, like full wall reinstallation. And that could have, if they could prove that it was fairly obvious and that it's something that she would have noticed or did notice, then she might have been liable to pay for that out of her bond or even more potentially. So make sure that no matter how small the little issue is, just report it. Like whatever, like they can just shrug it off if they want to shrug it off, or they can investigate if they want to investigate. Yeah, just make sure that you report that. All right, second last one, get rid of any mold as it happens. If you have used a mold killer and are still finding like a proper hardcore bleach mold killer, the other one too that I found really good is oil of clothes. If you just put a couple of drops in a bottle of water and give it or vinegar is even better. Oh my God, vinegar and oil of clothes, perfect. Give the area a spray, as long as it's not going to cause discoloration of the paint. That's something to be aware of. Give the area a spray and let it completely dry. Open your windows, get the air circulation happening. This is a really good preventative because oil of cloves will prevent mold from growing, and it can kill mold spores. But yeah, if you need something more hardcore, then make sure that you go for a bleach-based mold killer. Again, be mindful of paint discoloration with this as well. Try to get some paint safe products if you can. But yeah, make sure that you remove that, because if it continues to grow or get worse or become like a really big problem, like a health risk where they have to get like a professional in, or you have to move out for a while, and you haven't reported it prior, then you could be, again, you might have to foot that bill. The other thing too is it's really important, if you're doing all the right things, like you've gotten, so a few things with mold, you know, try to increase air circulation in the area by opening a window, even if it's just for like half an hour a day or a couple of times a day. Try to use dehumidifiers. You can get like dehumidifying sachets and containers and things. Make sure these are pet safe if you've got any pets. Another good one is to use like the non-toxic cat litter, which I've put into some containers. I actually put them into stockings and put them in containers, which will help to absorb moisture in the air. Try to make sure you've got good air circulation overnight as well, because that's usually when it's quite misty and humid. And also just like in general, just trying to make sure you keep an eye on any molds that might come up, and keep it clean every month or two. But if you notice that it's still going, even when you've done all those things and it just keeps regrowing and regrowing and regrowing, it could actually be like embedded more deeply in the paint. So if this is the case, like make sure that you do a maintenance report as soon as possible. So if you find that just like regular cleaning and opening the window doesn't work, make sure that you report it. It could also be something like a leak in the wall or water seepage. Like you might not actually, like the seal on your window might have gone and there might be water seeping in and running down the wall. It could be issues with ventilation, or it could be embedded in the paint. So do that maintenance report, and that way if it is due to anything else, or it does get worse down the track, and you can't get it under control, or a different type of mold forms that is more dangerous, that you do need to have a professional come in, then you won't be liable for that, because you have reported it and you have done your due diligence in trying to keep it under control. And lastly, you need to leave the place in the same condition you moved in, unless the changes or modifications that you made were approved by your real estate and they're happy for them to stay that way. So even if you have made those minor modifications like hanging picture frames or putting child safety locks in and those sorts of things, chat to your real estate first and be like, hey, would you like me to leave these in? They're a really great feature, or they might help the next person. But if they say no, then you need to make sure that they're out and that it's all the way back to how it was. So for example, a nice easy one with nails, hooks and fixtures is you can take those out and patch over the holes with plaster filler. We actually have a couple of videos on doing this, which are on our YouTube channel, Latrobe U Space. Alrighty, everyone, that is a wrap. What a large list of obligations. It can be hard to keep on top of, but do your very best. It will save you money and pain in the long run. And make sure that anything amiss, any damage or anything like that, take lots of photos, do your maintenance reports, and try to cover yourself in case they are going to claim money against your bond, or try to claim money that you owe that, you know, is unfair, because you really don't want to, if you end up having to go to VCAT or anything like that, you want to make sure that you've got your I's dotted, your T's crossed, and that you can stand up for yourself. You've got the evidence to support yourself so that you won't be footed with those bills. Alrighty, thank you everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, I'm going to bring you a last little list of handy hints, and then we're going to talk about moving day and how to make sure that goes really smoothly, which is a video that I missed a little earlier on. We also have a couple of little topics we're going to talk about. We're going to chat about VCAT and VCAT processes, as well as the tenancy blacklist and how to deal with that. And we're going to have a whole episode on communicating successfully with your real estate agent, so you can make sure that you get the most out of that relationship. Alrighty, thank you very much everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I will chat to you soon. Happy renting, everyone.